Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your boy BDF44, and I'd like to talk about some things that don't make sense to me anymore in terms of vices and things that I just don't really mess with no more. So, first thing I want to say is liquor. Some of the worst experiences of my life came from when I was drunk or had a combination of drunk and high going on. And I just started realizing after the hangovers and the bad experiences and hearing other people's stories and hearing the tragedies that come with liquor and thinking about how someone could take your license away and put a breathalyzer in your car to keep it from starting if you don't breathe into it correctly. When you start lining up all the things that are wrong with liquor and the things that don't match up, waking up with them badass hangovers, you know, it's just like it don't make sense to me no more. It was like maybe 3 pros and like fucking 50 cons that came with drinking. It just don't make no sense to me no more. And weed, y'all know I don't have any problem with marijuana as it pertains to it being something that people should be able to do legally. I'm all for it. Go for it. Smoke your weed if that's what you want to do. But for me, it got to a point where it was a bill, first of all, a very expensive one that I could rarely afford. No matter how much I smoked, I was always spending too much on weed. No matter what, it was always over $100 here. It got to a point where I had probably about $1,000 worth of weed in my house that had been accumulated from me buying eighths every single week. That money could have been a million different ways, but it was going into my habit. I was waking up in the morning feeling congested. I don't eat pork very much, and it's not because of nothing religious or anything like that, but it's just because of how congested I would feel when I do so. That snorting, that hawking and spitting and all of that, I hated that feeling, and yet weed did the exact same thing to me. Y'all see some of my earlier videos, and even now to an extent, since I'm cleaning myself out, I'm sitting up there snorting and hawking and barely talking, throat always congested and all this bull. It was for the weed. And then I realized when I was, early on in my weed smoking sativas, I would have short-term memory loss and just being absent-minded, forgetting things, not being able to say certain things, couldn't get the words off out of my tongue. Something would be on the tip of my tongue at all times, even stuff that I should know very, very well. Normally, that I would be able to say as clearly as I'm speaking right now would just be, I'd be tongue-tied. Off of some sativas, I would be paranoid and self-conscious. It would increase my feelings of feeling self-conscious or paranoid or what have you. Some weeds did. Others would make me feel like I could barely drive a vehicle, could barely focus, could barely see. It was ruining my eyesight. Look at all these cons, man. The pros, be high for a couple hours depending on how much I smoke. I like the feeling of exhaling smoke out of my lungs. Got some more cons for you. Black lips. Not being able to remember dreams. I don't dream when I get high. It's the strangest thing in the world. I don't know if anybody else experiences that, but I never, ever, ever dream when I'm high. But when I don't smoke, my dreams are vivid as hell. Don't forget nothing. It shuts off the part of my brain that allows me to remember my dreams. It's the truth. And weeds do different things. Some weeds are very, very good. Some really, really suck. More than half of the ones that I smoked, I didn't love. More than half. And that's after I threw away sativas entirely. Just going off of indicas and certain type of hybrids. It got to a point where I'm like, okay, 1 out of every maybe 15 weeds, I really, really enjoyed. The rest of them did different things. Some of them caused problems. Some of them made me stupid. Some of them made me sleepy. Others were just too heavy. Others were too light. Some weed is trash. Like, Sometimes when the weed's too sticky, you get that extra congestion. Sometimes when you have weeds that are like, I remember some type of Gorilla Glue that was so strong that when I smoked it, it put pain in my throat. Like, it hurt to smoke that shit. Like, it's too many cons, bro. I'm not sitting up here telling people what they should and should not do. I just came to a realization after 20 years, more or less, of smoking. I've been smoking weed since I was 12 years old. 20 years. And I finally came to the conclusion that I didn't want to smoke no more. Why? Because I couldn't figure out why I was smoking. I literally had no answer. I sat up one day while smoking, earlier this month, as a matter of fact, this is very recently, and I asked myself, why am I doing this? And I thought about it. I looked at the strand that I had. I hated the strand that I was smoking. And I'm sitting here, I'm like, I don't know. Like, all the answers that I thought I had in the past, some of the answers I thought I was addicted, thought it made me happy, thought it was this, thought it was that. I had no answer. I was smoking because I was smoking. So I came to the conclusion, if you can't figure out why you're doing something, 9 out of 10 times, probably even more than that, it is time to stop. It's time to stop. So that was what I came to the conclusion. A lot of my vices just don't make no damn sense. Like, they just didn't add up for me. They had way more cons than pros. And I was of the mindset throughout the entire time I was in my depression that I had more of a mental problem than I did, because 9 out of 10 times I was high, bro. It exaggerated rather, all of my worst issues. And I was no wiser because it never came down. Do you understand what I'm saying? I thought I was really, really in a lot of trouble, in which I was to a degree, but more than half the battle was because my mind was altered. And it took me a very, 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 very long time to come to that conclusion. Now, do I have some things I need to work through? Sure. Right now, yeah. But guess what? Since I've stopped smoking, a lot of those issues, a lot of those things that I thought were going on in my head, a lot of those parameters, those blocks, mental blocks that I still couldn't seem to bowl through, they've disappeared. A lot of that shit was just weed, bro. Honestly. A lot of that shit was just being too high all the time, never allowing your mind to reset and letting your body reset and letting yourself understand who you are without the shit. Some of your vices, people, I guess I get on here to say, some of your vices you will realize don't make any sense and have way more negatives than positives. They just really do. You know, a lot of y'all may be alcoholics. A lot of y'all may eat poorly. You know, I talked to a good friend of mine who's in a situation in Texas. I ain't going to mention who these people are because it ain't nobody's business and they're private people. But, you know, she's in Texas and she's living with someone who's slowly killing himself because of his bad eating habits. Homeboy has diabetes, has kidney issues. He's pissing black. But he has to have his sweets. He must eat cake. He must drink soda. He must have greasy foods every day. Why? He doesn't equate the pain that he's in, the physical pain that he's in, to his eating habits for some strange reason. And I know that there are millions of people in this country and beyond who had that same problem. I was one of them. As a young kid, I was a chubby kid. I more than chubby. I was fat and unhappy and miserable because of it. Got made fun of tremendously because of how my body was structured. And I was continuing to reinforce my bad habits in eating and not being active, not wanting to sweat at all, but wanting to continue to eat Taco Bell every day, McDonald's every day, big huge tubs of Red Vines and shit. And then would be miserable as hell because I was a big kid and was being made fun of because of it. At some point you gotta realize, people, it's the things that you do that cause your problems. And you need help, not necessarily because of any other reason, then you continue to give yourself reasons to need help. I had to come to terms with that. I was mad at people for not helping me in situations where I would not have needed help if I would have did the things necessary to keep myself from being in that situation. Doing self-destructive shit. Not really having an answer for why I was doing the things that I was doing, other than the fact that I was just comfortable doing them. And then the results and the consequences would come. And then I would need help. And then I'd be mad at the people who weren't helping me. Not mad at myself for putting myself in that situation. Not seeing myself as a solution to change my ways so that I didn't need help. I was just continuing to do the same shit. And then would blame everybody else for why they wouldn't help me when I wasn't willing to help myself. I know a lot of people going through that in their own way. And they are in their own way and are not wise enough to see it because of habits that they allowed themselves to continue without really a reason for it. So ask yourself, why am I doing this? Why? And if you can't come up with no answer, stop. Just simply stop. Because I'm telling you, your health problems, a lot of people who have health issues, a lot of people who have addictive personalities and who are addicted to certain things like liquor and shit like that. All it starts with is understanding. The way to break that cycle is just understanding that you're harming yourself. That the pain that you're in, the physical pain that you're in, is caused by your inactivity and your bad habits. Whether it be eating, drinking, smoking, drugs, or something else. It starts with you cleansing yourself of all that shit. And you can't stop thinking. A lot of people like to stop thinking at, well, this is just who I am. This is just what I do. You know why you can't stop thinking? Because you have people that care about you. There are people who are going to need to help you. And you're dragging them into your bullshit. And that's my problem with my friend's friend, more or less. He needs all this help. He needs people to help him with everything in the world because of his health. And he continues to reinforce these bad foods into his body. But then you want everybody else to be there for you. You want to give people guilt trips for not showing up to the ER for you. How about you stop eating all that bad stuff so you don't have to be in the damn ER? How about you get your ass outside and go run around the block a little bit so you can start getting good things going on in your body, sweat some of them toxins out so nobody has to go help you out. You ever think of that? Help yourself? Not just for yourself so that other people don't have to mourn your ass when you die? You ever think of that? It's a lot that comes with being self-destructive, and the one thing that seems to fail everybody is the fact that you are not in this alone. You're not. You got people who are praying for you, trying to be hopeful for you, who are stressing out over your bullshit. And you can't stop thinking because you'll forget about those people. Giving yourself breaks saying, well, homeboy down the street do worse than me. Like that has anything to do with you. Take care of yourself so that the people who love you don't have to suffer you. I'll leave you with that, y'all. BDF.